This video shows you how to decorate your staircase and flower vase with decoration lights to have the runway type effect, and also how to set up your Christmas tree. So I will be skimming through the process of setting up the lights in the flower vase, but basically when you get the hang of it, the process is quite repetitive. So ideally, I will start by setting up the lights at the base of the transparent flower vase, and sort of like spread the lights out in a circular orientation so that it latches on to the perimeter of the transparent vase, especially in positions where the lights are evident when viewing from the sides of the wall. And so you can see that I'm placing them lights directly on the sides of the glass wall as opposed to the midsection of the filled beads. And as soon as I complete one revolution around the side of the flower vase, I will put some beads in and repeat the process, for the subsequent layer. And when I get, the light around the perimeter of the transparent flower vase, I'll put some bit more beads in and, repeat the process until the beads fill up the flower vase and all of the lights have been evenly distributed around the perimeter of the transparent flower vase. So you can see that one band of light has been set around the perimeter of the glass wall. So I'm pouring in more beads, so that I can set up another band of light around the perimeter of the glass wall, whose locus or provenance will sit directly above the initial band of lights that was installed at a lower strata or layer of the beads. Okay, this is just for demonstration purposes, but ideally I would fill up the beads to the top of the vase, and also set up lights around the perimeter of the glass wall until all the revolutions of the light beads around the perimeter of the glass wall gets to the height of the vase in line or in succession with each strata or layer of the filled up beads. So pretty much, set up your lights in the mains, stick the lights in the vase around its perimeter, till it gets to the top. And that's pretty much it really. Then stick your flowers in and that's the vase decoration done. And here you can see that the flowers will be inserted. You can set your lights to be static or blinking, whatever preference you choose. You can alter the state, by adjusting, the lights, or selecting a different lighting up sequence. So here I have got some drawing pin, round push pins, thumb tacks, which I will be, sliding through both stranded wires that supply power to the white light emitting diode. Just make sure that, both stranded wires hold on to the push pin and that when sliding the push pin through, it doesn't damage the wire or puncture it. Push fit the push pin and the stranded wire into the skirting board, but don't overly push it down so that it doesn't damage the wire. Okay, the next step would be to push fit the wire or tuck it in between the adjoining line just before the riser and the thread nosing. So you can see that I will be tucking in the lights in between both steps. So here I'm using my hands, but to aid or facilitate how you ramp up speed, you could use like a ruler to insert or to push the wires in, because if you do use your hand, with time your hands will begin to hurt due to friction. So by all means use a ruler if you can find one to push the wires in or tuck them in between both steps. The idea is tuck the wires in between the fibers or the grains of the carpet, leaving out the white light emitting diodes. And so once we have established the path that we want the light to follow, we install or position two push pins through the stranded lights, at the opposite ends of the line, separating both steps. And so the pattern for the decoration lights line of travel, all through the way from the bottom of the step up to the top of the step is serpentine or snake-like. Okay, so it goes from left to right and from right to left and from left to right repetitively. So we're going to be repeating or reproducing the process of fitting both pins at both ends every time the lights make one serpentine turn from left to right and from right to left as the positioning pattern is established. Okay, And so you can see that you can trace the decorations light path from the left hand side, comes up the stairs to the right, okay, so it follows that path to the right, then climbs up to the left, okay. So when the wire comes up to the last riser, on the top of the landing of the stairs, we run the remainder of the wire all the way down through the skirting on the right hand side, okay, and begin to fit the push pins, at equidistant positions, so that, the wire is evenly distributed on the skirting. So just distribute the push pins, so that the wire is sat in position. And you can see that the lighting is beginning to take the runway effect. For the left lighting runway effect, we plug a different lighting into the socket, at the top landing, and run the stranded wires, through the door frame post, okay, from the bottom to the top in an N shape, okay. So this is the stranded wire coming all the way down with push pins setting the decoration light, in a static position around the door frame, okay. So that comes all the way down through the skirting and, glides back up, onto the other door post. So it comes underneath the radiator, stretch out the wire so that it's uniform and sleeve it into position, with the aid of your push pins, okay, so that it's sat properly on the skirting. Then replicate the process on, the subsequent door frame on its path. And as you can see, the runway type effect is beginning to take place. So we've just originally sleeved them into position. We're going to, install more pins to give it that rigid flush connection against the door frames. And you can see we're pretty much almost done, with the runway type effect over the door frame. Although preference is subjective, if you've got little ones in the property and they wake up to seeing this on the day they're opening up them presents, you will give them something to think about, okay? But the idea behind running, the lights over the door frames, is to trace its line of travel or path down to the left hand pane or section of the stairway, okay? And as you can see, if we trace, the decoration lights all the way down to the bottom of the newel post or the base of the top landing, you can see that we're running it through onto the left hand pane or the left section of the staircase. So we're still going to run, push pins into the corners or width of the landing where the decoration lights travel or pass through. And you can see the runway type effect, all the way down the stairs, but in this case, we're not doing the serpentine thing with the left-handed lights, as the light on the right-hand side has taken care, of the serpentine effect that we want to establish on the staircase. And as previously highlighted, after running the serpentine pattern, on the stairs, run the remainder of them decoration lights on the skirting on the right hand side, which is what you've got here. So that it runs all the way down on a straight line path. Never mind the crack on the caulking, there is a clip in the channel which shows how to fix that. And at the right hand side where the decoration light, caves down, I've used 2 pins to support it there so that, it's set into position sturdily. And the last step would be to stretch out the decoration light and install more pins so that it's got an aesthetically more pleasing look, okay? So where you see any slack, stretch the decoration lights out and install more pins to keep it in a sturdy and steady position. Flush against the door and skirting, and this is the end result. It looks absolutely brilliant. Doesn't matter if you've got the lighting on or you've turned off or switched off the lights, it looks fantastic, okay? But like I said, preference is subjective, so this might not be the type of thing for you, but it does work for me, okay? And so here we haven't just got the door frames buzzing, we've also got the staircase buzzing, and we've got the flower vases buzzing, and you can replicate this wherever you want to in the property. You can also replicate this in other flower vases, but I just keep it conservative and apply it to the staircase, to the door frames here, and to the flower vases, okay? So the last step would be to visually inspect all of that hard work to see if we actually got the serpentine feel to it, and if we also managed to replicate the runway effect. And you can see it's clearly visible. It's more like you're landing your aircraft. The stairway or staircase is well illuminated and it's got a dazzle effect, a runway type effect to it. And if we visually inspect the installation process from the 6 o'clock position looking upwards to the 12 o'clock position or northwards, we can see that, the serpentine display is well enacted, okay, and we can also see that it's got the runway type effect to it, both on the left hand and right hand pane, and in between both steps, right just before the thread nose and the riser. Look out for any loose push pins, at the right or left hand side, or any pins that's just lurking or loitering about. Remove them from the passage area and make sure that it is safe and healthy for passage through. And as you can see, I have also installed the shiny tinsel on the handrail to give it that dazzle and more of that bright spark to it, okay? And so we're pretty much done with the decorating of the door frame, the handrails, the steps, the flower vase, and the skirting as well, okay? And that's, pretty much the decoration on the top and bottom landing done, but after installation, just keep carrying out routine risk assessment, from time to time when walking past, just to make sure that you haven't got any pins that have been dislodged. If they have, reinstall them. If they're not supposed to be there, take them away because, you never know with kids, do you? As long as you're not throwing caution to the wind, you should be fine, okay? And once the festive season is over, to take the decorations off, just get the flowers out, from the vase. Disconnect the right runway decoration lights from the mains socket, and salvage, your lighting decoration for the next season if you're going to use it still. So that's pretty much the lighting from the vase removed. So we're taking out the lighting from the back of the calyx and, just rolling up, most of the wire length that we've got protruding, from the back of the calyx. Then get a robust staple remover, to get the push pins off of the skirting, okay? The staple remover facilitates or ramps up the process of removing them push pins, from the wood or the skirting from their installed positions in situ. Make sure that you collect all the pins, in a container or, segregate them in a particular location and make sure that you visually inspect, the stairway or staircase to make sure that you haven't got any of these pins loitering around. Do a vacuum of your staircase once you're done. Look out for any push pins that haven't been uninstalled or dislodged. Put them into a bowl if you can, but just make sure that you haven't got any pins buried. I doubt that you'd have pins buried in the fibre of the carpet. It's highly unlikely because they're quite large pins, but you never know. Just make sure that you do a clean sweep of the staircase once you're done, okay? Here I will be showing you how to set up a Tula silver tipped fir Christmas tree. It's about 1.8 meter in height or 6 feet. This silver tipped fir luxury tree with the metal stand has got an artificial frosted effect to it. It's got more like a snow-like frosted dazzling effect to it. The gross weight with a box inclusive is 8.20 kilograms. And excluding the box is 6.60 kilograms. The volume is 0.0798 cubic meter. And so, once the metal base foundation has been assembled together, I will begin to use the tree scarf to dress one row of the hinged tree at a time without all the branches above interfering. Suffice to say, ideally, the band should be fitted each time a row is completed. So get the metal stand base foundation out and also the row branches from the box. So this is an hypothetical situation. In an ideal situation, whilst setting up the row of the hinged tree to be dressed, one row of the tree should be dressed at a time without all the branches interfering from above. So I will be showing you the process from the floor. So you can see the tree scarf holding the other row of branches, in situ into position, whilst I spread out the needle-shaped leaves, on the branch or tipped fir, which the red scarf isn't holding in position. The red scarf helps with accessibility and ramping up of the tree assembly process. So I will be opening up the metal base foundation, assembling, the necessary closed eye hooks into the foundation, and then subsequently installing, one row at a time, or assembling one row of the hinged tree at a time into the metal stand. The white centered round rose cap, on the rug doesn't come with the box, but it was improvised, just to give the metal rod, a center of gravity, and, to prevent, the metal rod from exerting pressure or damaging the rug. So subsequently, at a later stage, I will be using the closed eye hook to secure the rod into the metal stand, and I will be opening up the or stretching out the needle-shaped leaves on them branches and positioning the centerpiece or main rod into the metal stand and securing it with the closed eye hooks. As you can see, I'm not using the tree scarf to dress one row of the hinged tree, one at a time, and that's because I know what I'm doing, but by all means deploy the use of the tree scarf if the other branches are getting in the way. Okay, so this is the base row completed. If you want, a band or the tree scarf can be fitted each time a row is completed, one at the bottom row, and when that's done, before you insert the midsection row, you apply the tree scarf, but I'm not using it here because I know what I'm doing. The next step would just be to stretch out, the needle-shaped leaf on them branches at the bottom base or the bottom hinged tree, and then subsequently insert the midsection of the hinged tree onto the bottom section of the hinged tree. And once the midsection of the hinged tree is fully inserted, you stretch out the needle-shaped leaves on them branches, okay? And once the branches and the needle-shaped leaves on the midsection of the hinged tree has been fully spread out, you will see the slots at which the top part of the hinged tree will slide or slot into, okay? And once we've got an evenly wide spread or distribution around the midsection, we can then proceed to install the top row of the hinged tree. At this stage, we're pretty much going to replicate or repeat and reproduce the process, of spreading out the needle-shaped leaves on them branches, as previously done before for the bottom and the midsection of the hinged trees. By all means use the tree scarf if you want to, but like I said, I'm just going to skim through that process as I know exactly what I'm doing here, okay? And as you can see, I'm spreading out the needle-shaped leaves on them branches in preparation for the installation of the lights on the top section, the midsection, and the bottom section of the hinged tree or the row of the hinged trees. And as you can see, I'm starting from the bottom of the hinged tree, in an upward spiral up to the midsection and then up to the top section row of the hinged trees. Plod along painstakingly, run the light and decoration through the branches or the needle-shaped leaves. Even if you'd have to run through a smorgasbord or myriad of, them branches or, the needle-shaped leaves, just be patient. You will get there in the end. Up until you reach the tip of the iceberg or the apex of the Tula silver-tipped fir Christmas tree. And as you can see at this stage, it's got a winter wonderland, beautiful silver frosted look. It looks absolutely brilliant and dazzling, okay? And if you want to take the decoration on this classy wintry filled tree one step further, you can begin to install the baubles and the ornament, on the tree into two. Just emboss or retrofit your showy trinket or decoration, onto the tree. Be generous, and tailor your decoration bespoke to your requirements, as preference is subjective. What works for one person may necessarily not work for another person, but these are the baubles that I've chosen and their respective ornaments, okay? And so from here onwards, I'm just going to embellish, the Christmas tree with more baubles and ornaments, sort of like, to give it a facelift, from just the original lighting that was retrofitted on the tree, to a state where we've got many bubble reference points as well as ornament points, giving it more of a grandiose appearance, okay? With respect to variations in color as well as, the shapes of the ornaments and their respective arrangements. So this was the initial state, prior to fitting the bubbles and the ornaments, okay? And this is the final state after fitting them ornaments and bubbles and lighting up the Christmas tree. It looks absolutely brilliant, fantastic. Okay, it's got a height of 2.4 meters, a girth of 120 centimeter. The number of tips on the tree is 587. It's got hinged branches, a metal base included, and the needle type is hard needle and soft needle, and the finish is silver tipped. At this stage, I'm pretty much giving you a 2D panoramic view of the assembled Tula silver tipped fair Christmas tree. All of the hard work's paid off. This is exactly what I had pre-envisioned prior to assembling or installing all of the accessories on the Christmas tree branches. And as with life, every good thing comes to an end. But the beauty of this Tula silver tipped Christmas tree is that, it can be salvaged for the next season. Okay? So, I will be showing you how to take it down or reverse engineer the process so that we can store it away for the next season. And so the reverse engineer or takedown process would entail getting off the bubbles and the ornaments from the tree, which is what I'm doing here, and then subsequently taking off the first row of the hinged tree in succession. The midsection of the hinged tree will follow, and then the bottom section of the hinged tree row will follow. Okay, then we decouple the stand or the metal stand base foundation. Once all the bubbles and ornaments have been taken off, the next step would be to take off the lighting decoration on the Christmas tree. Starting from the top of the snowy Tula Christmas tree down to the bottom, just take off the serpentine or serpent wound decoration, from the Christmas tree in the same orientation that it was installed previously. Okay, so just reverse engineer it off of all of them branches or the needle shaped leaves. And once done, you can disconnect the adapter from the mains, okay, or switch off the socket, okay. The next step would be to close in all the needle shaped leaves on the row of the hinged tree, at the top, the midsection and the bottom, sort of like cluster them together, close them into position in preparation for, storing or for storage. Again, you can use the tree scarf if you so desire, but, I've skimmed through that. I know exactly what I'm doing. The next step would be to dislodge or disassemble the top row of the hinged tree from the midsection row of the hinged tree. Then replicate or repeat and reproduce the process for the midsection row of the hinged tree. So pretty much cluster or close in all the needle shaped leaves, in the midsection, and then dislodge, the midsection from the bottom section row of the hinged tree. So that's the top and midsection on the carpet. The next step would be to dislodge, the bottom hinged section row of the hinged tree. So I will replicate or repeat the disassembly process that was instituted for the top and midsection of the hinged tree. And to dislodge the bottom row section of the hinged tree, I will dislodge or rotate the closed eye hooks anti-clockwise to hand loosen or tuck loosen the closed eye hook's grip on the rod for the bottom row hinged tree. And as you can see, after tuck loosening, I've got a bit of play there, so I can dislodge the rod for the bottom row hinged tree from the metal stand base foundation. Do not let the crumbs that you see on the carpet dismay you. It can easily be hoovered. All of them crumbs are actually due to protracted use. It's not like the first time you set up the Christmas tree, you're going to have all them crumbs there, okay? Insert the protection dust caps, on the rods of the top, mid and bottom section of the hinged tree, to help protect the integrity of the diameter of them bores in them rods, okay? for optimal insertion into each other's rods. Salvage or store away the metal stand and the tree scarf alongside the rows of the hinged trees into the box. And that's about it really. If you found the information useful, don't forget to subscribe, like and share, help the channel grow, and hopefully catch up with you later. Thank you for your time and thank you for listening. Goodbye.